Good morning, evening, or afternoon, whichever one's going on for you at this current point in time. Today we are talking about flex, and that's right, this is my first flex tool. I wanted to show this off because, a lot of people want their info or their impressions from somebody who's actually a carpenter or somebody who's doing the work. That's not the case with me. Sometimes you want to hear it from somebody who's equally as unexperienced as you, so that as you're learning with that person or that person sharing information, you're like, you know what? I got that impression. I'm not the only one. It's crazy when somebody who's like 40 years certified and they've been doing it forever and they can do it in their sleep. It's good to have their, information or their advice. But sometimes you just want to hear it from somebody who's experiencing it with you at the same time. So first nailer ever in general. Great weight. So I'm going to go through the pros of it, the cons of it, kind of show you the uses and blah, 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 and we'll send you on your way. Sound good? Now, before we get to the actual dimensions, because I just want to show you roughly what this is going to be, the weight, the height, length, all that, blah, 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 we are going to just talk about a couple of initial impressions. So first of all, you do get 2 extra tips, which is very nice, in addition to the one you have pre-installed. It does have dry fire lockout, so after 3 or 4 nails are left, it won't allow you to engage. Now keep in mind, I want to make this very clear before we get into the video, safety first. So the last thing you want is one of these nails, you're going and going, something cracks off, goes flying. On your own time, because I can't really recommend this stuff for the sake of YouTube, look up nail injuries to the eyes medically. You're going to see why you should always have your safety on. And if it doesn't come out through your eyes, grab a piece of wood and give it a nail right here. See what happens when that nail hits a piece of, knot or something. That nail is going to come out straight through your hand. So please be aware of that. Just because they're little 18 gauge brad nails does not mean they don't hurt. With that being said, dry fire lockout is the least of your worries. We're talking about really quick safety tips. Now for the safety, again, there's 5 things you have to do in order to get this thing to fire a nail. So if you get to the 5th and you hurt yourself, you shouldn't have a nail gun in your hand. So first off, you have to have a battery in. Make that clear. Industry lead runtime, blah, blah, blah. 2,200 nails with their smallest battery. That's pretty good. Now, again, make sure your stuff's charged. I love the green with the gray. This looks like some alien movie. This is awesome. I like the design. But you have to put your battery in. Not going to do it for the sake of safety, but you have to put your battery on. Next, you have to have nails in. Yep, didn't think I had to spell that one out. That's 2. 3, you have to power your nail gun on, or your nailer on. Next, you have to pull the trigger. That's 4. And 5, you actually have to engage the tip. This thing's not just going to start shooting nails everywhere. It's not like the old style pneumatics where you just hook them up to a compressor and tack, 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 tack. No, they have to be, engaged. If you get to all of those and you decide to touch yourself with these, that is on you. That is, something's wrong with you. But accidents do happen, so please be safe. Just saying. With the belt clip / rafter hook, we're looking at 4 pounds, 14.1 ounces. The length from the back of the head to the tip of the bump nose is 12 inches. From the top of the gun to the bottom of the magazine, we're at 9.5 inches. The thickness of the tool, not including the hook, is 3.5 inches. Now, something I wanted to check out was flex batteries and chargers. I don't like superchargers, rapid chargers, fast chargers, but this is just the smallest one they make. And it's 160 watt. So when you first plug it in, you get this burst through that fan. That just lets you know it's engaged. When you're actually charging the battery, this thing is annoyingly loud because of the fans. Which it's not going to do right now because the battery's fully charged. But it makes this super annoying, like whiny sound. I would say the only thing that's second to this would be the Milwaukee charger, which has that like high-pitched kind of hiss with the 18-volt batteries. Pretty annoying, but again, I'd rather have cooler batteries, not a big deal. So I got 3/4 inch here 1.25 inch here, and 2-inch all 18 gauge nails. The last thing you want to do, if for whatever reason your nails do not sink all the way in, the last thing you want to do is grab a standard claw hammer and just wail on it. No, that's how you damage trim and cost yourself money. Small rubber mallets with a small punch. You want to be absolutely precise with what you're doing. If you have to go with a more blunt side, tap it flush and then use the tip to kind of sink it in a little further. They make many punches that are all different diameters that are way smaller than this. And given the size of these heads, you will need something much smaller. So keep that in mind. Don't just leave half-ass work, because it's going to show. And trust me, they won't call you back and they'll be very unhappy with you. Quick side note for anybody who's curious, yes, the tool does stand up with a battery in. All right, so let's grab some wood because I want to make this a real world situation. Let's assume this is your 2x you're framing behind your wall. Let's assume that you have 5/8 thick drywall. Maybe you got 1/2 inch. I don't care what you have. I'm just giving you an example. Let's pretend this is your drywall. Let's pretend this, which is another just piece of 5/8, is your trim, right? So in your cross section, it is going to look like this. Let's assume this is your wall on the right side. You are going to have your drywall and then your piece of trim. You will need a nail that is able to successfully get through this material, through your drywall, and still have enough material to properly sink itself into your framing, right? So that's a cross section. If you were to cut your wall, would be your frame, your drywall, and then your trim. All right? So for the sake of making this much easier for you to see, let's assume they're like that. So 5/8 plus 5/8 is how much? That's right. So we have 1 2/8 or 1 1/4 inch. So 1 1/4 inch nails are not going to work. So typically you want about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, up to an inch of nail going through your actual frame. So naturally we would need to get to here. Now, typically about 1 3/4 inches is what you're going to want as like the minimum. However, the closest we have to that, rounding up, because you always want to round up and have more securing power than less. So we got our 2-inch here. I'm going to load these up. Again, press and hold. Okay, cool. Apparently, I didn't realize that the tool remembers, because in a different, I recorded this already and I said that it starts at burst mode. Apparently it remembers the last thing you did. Cool. Okay, so nice. All right, load your nails in. Chisel tip facing forward. And something I didn't fail, or something I didn't remember to add in, was if you take this off to clear a bump that did not come out, you will send your nails flying. So make sure your magazine is empty before you attempt to clear a jam, or you're going to launch all your nails out the top. So set it about half of the depth. Let's see what we got. Right? Wrong. You keep your freaking hands away. If it was like over here, there's not a problem. But with eye protection, super important. Right? And you can see it sent it just perfect. And again, holding power is good. I'm actually, you can see the flex in my hands. It's actually taking a good amount of force to get that to come apart. So that was well done. Again, nowhere in your life would you be pulling on trim for no reason unless you're actively trying to remove it. So it sank perfectly. I'd say probably 1.5 millimeters below the surface. So for softwoods like this, perfect. However, what about hardwood? Now, you never want to get a hardwood like this, because if you have to hold it right here, that nail is going to come out through the webbing of your hand, through your knuckle, or somewhere digging into your bone. You don't want that to be the case. I almost said nose because I'm assuming something's going to come flying at the face. We don't want that to be the case. That was not supposed to rhyme as well. So, 2-inch. Now, obviously, a longer nail is necessary here, but I just want to see what happens. So these things are just above the surface. So bring your setting down. Let's try that 2 more times. And again, I am in single mode. If I go to burst mode, I can just... And these are flush with the surface. I can still kind of feel them. 1 more. Bump mode. And those are perfect. If you look at the last 3 that I did, they are just below the surface. You can fill them, paint them, super nice. And again, throughout this and any of the testing that I've done off camera, it has not given me a nail. There have been no misfires where anything gets jammed. It's perfect. I mean, the only learning curve is between learning that clicking wheel that everybody's used to and this type of depth gauge. That's the only thing you're going to be learning. But as far as consistency, like I'm gonna just go all the way down and just do like 5 randomly, right? And if you look close, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only one that's proud here. And one that is flush with the surface. Again, it also means that you have to be making like full contact. Don't like barely activate it and then you're already pulling your hand away. Like let them sink. You see? So after this line are the new 5 that I just did. So as you see, they are burying them and it's perfectly fine. So if you're getting nails that are like this, where they're kind of slightly proud or barely surfacing, you need to allow your tool to actually sit there and make the connection, right? So if you're clacking and already pulling it away as soon as you touch, it's, slow down a little bit. And again, if it takes you 60 nails to get your trim in, you're doing something wrong. So, and I mean, that's got some good force, and I doubt I'm going to be by hand doing this to pull this out. Yeah, she in there. Now, really quick, I just want to make sure that I'm using this to a fair point. So I'm going to do, I don't know, let's see, 80, maybe 90 nails of the 3/4 inch. I'm just going to bump the crap out of this, see if any of them happen to stall or if I get 50 perfect ones. As far as the depth, I really don't care, so I'm just going to leave it in the middle. Again, this is more about just making sure they fire versus making sure if anything jams. So as far as that, I also want to test that lockout to make sure that as I'm hitting it, it will lock the tip up. Let's do it. And in case I didn't state it before, it turns on to whichever mode you last left it in. So it's not always in burst mode. That's cool. I like that it remembers. I should probably put some glasses on. All right, that's the lockout. So when you have the lockout, even if I have my finger on the trigger, don't do this at home, by the way. I'm pressing, it locks the tip. If it was not working, I would have a nail or several nails in my finger right now. Do not do this. I'm just showing you for the sake of being a jackass of all trades. That is my title. You can't have it. But that lockout is not going to let that nail fire if in an emergency. So if you take your magazine down, you'll see there's one left in there. Oh, okay. They got jammed in there. So there are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. There are actually 5 nails in there. So that lets you know, hey, I need another rack. And then you can change as necessary. Nice. So more 3/4 here. Now be careful. If this back plate bends this, you're gonna crack the ability for these to stick together. So you want the back plate to line right up with the nails and the front to slide over. Now you can either click this until it goes in or just press the button at the end of the, right here, this button to open. You can just press in and let go. So either that or, so I personally like pressing the button so that it's less wear over time. But small thing, if you're in a rush, just click it in and you're good to go. Continuing. We are down 1 notch after 80, 90. This was a whole rack, so I'm probably 6 in here, so 80, 90. We're looking at maybe 180 to 200. I mean, give or take, what, 10 nails for the lockout. So we're looking at probably 180, maybe 175, 180 screws or nails, and we're down 1 notch, which is not bad considering it's medium depth and I'm on bump mode, so clack, 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 clack. And looking really close, not a single one did not fire. They all made it to a specific depth. Now again, me rushing and hitting them at weird angles, of course some are gonna protrude or be proud. So if you look really close, let me turn on that light for you, right? You'll see the ones that I actually lined up and actually hit correctly are gonna be sub. Otherwise, it's all in the adjustment on your tool. But completely sunk, no misfires. And again, if you want to check to see if there is something wrong with your jam, if there is a jam, make sure your nails are not here, empty. Pop open the top cap and check for some kind of leak. Some people will also lubricate this just a little bit. There's still some lubricant from the factory on mine, so I'm good here. But make that sure that's tight. Put your nails in and keep going. If you happen to be shopping for 1/4 round, you might see 0.75. It's the same thing, but 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch is the dimensions for your 1/4 round. The reason they call it a 1/4 round is because if you put one of these times 4, you get a circle. That's why the 1/4 of a round, something that's round. Yes, got them. So we got to cover up these horrible holes, but let's do something about this gap first. Got some Craftsman nails here. Specifically, this brad nailer takes 2 1/8 inch. That's where it goes up to the highest, and the smallest it takes is 5/8, if I'm not mistaken. You want to point it with the head of the nail facing the tool, and then the tip of the nail, or the chisel end, is going to be facing out. Now be careful, because if you hold this at a bad angle, you can actually break the collation or the adhesive or plastic packing or whatever connects these nails together, right? But even if I pull the trigger, the lights come on. The lights are nice, by the way. Got 3 lights. One on the side, one at the immediate top, one right there on the left. So, very nice, bright. With the adjustment on the side, instead of having that cranking wheel that pretty much everybody has, there are positive stops in several different locations. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 locations. Cool. So I'm gonna do it about halfway just to kind of see. Fill in with putty or spackle or however you cover it, and you start painting. You want to see nice flush 1/4 round. You don't want to see the spot where the nails are sticking out or where they got filled in. Remember, clean work and workmanship is part of building up to code. So same angle as it was applied. However, this is 1.25 inches at half depth. So if I tap it, this is of course, let me see if I can zoom in action on that. It is sticking out. So I'd have to tap that in. So that's not an issue. Simply bring your depth in a little bit, or bring it down, increase the depth. So I'm gonna go one more spot, one more here. So that actually not buried the nail, but this second one, it's actually beneath the surface. And if I hit it the light, I'd say it's about 2.5, 3 millimeters back. So that is too deep. We can go back one, right? One more. All right, jokes aside, let's actually try it with 2-inch nails now. All right, that's about 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters above. Now that may not look like much, but I assure you, it is now flush up against the wall. Here's a piece of paper, just printer paper. If I put that, I maybe get, I don't know, 1/2 millimeter, 1/4 millimeter. It's not, there's no space behind there. It's giving resistance because it is tight up right up against the wall. So nice and clean. Now all that's left to do is correct 1, 2 nails. And again, that is just me toying with the depth. When you are actually nailing, you want to make sure that you have a test piece. So get yourself some 1/4 round and roughly know the sizes. Give it a tap, and then you make your depth adjustments based on your necessity. Sound good? Now once that's done, we're gonna come in with a little bit of something that I'm gonna show you in a second. Hold up. Now some people say that this is for drywall, and they're absolutely right. However, a lot of people also do swear by this for filling in wood. So if you're gonna be putting this on, it starts off pink, as most of this Dry Dex does. It comes off pink like bubble gum, and it will dry white. So make sure all of your nails are completely 100% below the material. Fill it in, and then once they're dry, give them a little bit of sanding, and they're ready to paint. Something that's also very important that a lot of people don't care to understand is you do have to give this a little bit of overdoing it, I guess, just making sure it's extra in there, because you want a little bit on the outside, so when you're sanding down, you don't get a big divot right where you're sanding in that area. So obviously, make sure the area is clean and get any extra. But you see how if I put my finger over it, you can still see the nail. So it's better to leave material on, let it dry 100%. This will dry white, and then you can sand it later. Don't worry about the mess. Trust the process. Now, as you can see, if I zoom in action over here, you can see this is kind of rough, but this is good. This gets sanded down, and yes, we may need just a tiny thin bead of caulk just behind it, but for the most part, there's no way to get this any closer. As you can see, that's as tight as it gets to the wall. Then just a little bit, and we can fill that in, and it will be good as new. Just for reference, that's how the holes initially looked. Again, I didn't do those. Those are the originals, but you want to cover your work as much as possible. All right, now sometime later, I came in with a 120 grit. Just got up in there real deep, giggity, 120, and then carefully finish it off with some 240, nice and smooth. Now it's ready to be painted. Give it a good little coat of white. You should be on your way. Zoom in action. you can see where the nails are, completely filled in flush. Give them a good painting. Right there, right there. Nice and smooth. Paint that up and you're on your way. All right, so I'm gonna just turn on the light really quick. The room is pitch black, so I'm gonna turn the light back off. Let's say for whatever reason you're on a job site, your generator is off. You can still see that green light. Turn your tool on, just pull the trigger one time. Those 3 lights are so bright that you are gonna get plenty of vision. If I need it to be somewhere over here, if I'm looking for a specific type of sandpaper, if I'm looking for a small piece of trim, I just need 1 piece left, and then I'm out for the day. Plenty of visibility, right? Little trigger pull. You don't have to press against anything to get them to turn on. Just nice, clack, clack, and you can keep moving. Very nice. Now there was one more concern besides the not being able to see the size of nail. That's my only con with it, by the way. The only other thing is if I turn on my tool, and you can see it is on yesterday, because technically it was, you know, kind of cut into 2 days because I got it like late in the day. I left the tool on, I came back and it was still on, so I don't know necessarily how long it takes for the tool to shut off by itself, or if it doesn't shut itself off, in which case it's just going to stay there until the battery's dead. But I don't have any issues with this thing. So apart from not being able to see the size, again, just know the size you're using and that's it. So thank you so much for watching. And if you are not in the Flex line, I gotta recommend it. I mean, time will tell whether or not it lasts or not. Also, the reason I sound weird is because my phone overheated. And quick side note, that my DJI mic is actually the same color scheme as the Flex. That's nice. I like that. Thank you so much for watching. Work smart.